Skulduggery Pleasant, Book 1, Chapter 14, Elemental Magic. China Sorrows was very still. She sat with her legs crossed at the knees, hands flat on the arms of the chair, and the sounds of the city at night did not seep into her apartment. They were alone in here, the only two people left on the face of the earth. Stephanie watched her and waited. The apartment was vast, occupying the space across the hall from her library. Stephanie had leaped out of the chair and out of the car China had set up, ran up the stairs, and been directed in here by the man in the bow tie. No time had been lost. Skulduggery was in danger, and they needed to get him back now. China spoke at last. How can you be sure it was Serpine? What? Of course it was Serpine. Who else could it have been? A delicate shrug of delicate shoulders. We have to be sure, that's all. I am sure, okay? China looked at her, and Stephanie felt ashamed of her impatience. She lowered her eyes and closed her mouth. She was so sore. Her body was so sore. But it was all right now because she was safe, and China would know what to do. Everything would be okay. Stephanie would wait for her to make a decision. No matter how long that she deliberated, and she felt sure that Skulduggery would be safe and well. Even if he wasn't, what did it matter? China knew what was best, and she wanted to wait, and then Stephanie would be happy to wait with her. No, she said to herself, that's China's spell working on me. She dragged her eyes up on China's gaze and thought she saw a flicker of surprise. What are you going to do? Stephanie asked. China rose from the chair in one graceful movement. I will see to it. You should go home, dear. You look dreadful. Stephanie felt herself blush. I'd rather stay. It could take some time before plans are in place. Wouldn't you be more comfortable in familiar surroundings? Stephanie didn't like disagreeing with China, but she couldn't go home, not while Skulduggery was in trouble. I'd rather stay, she repeated. Very well, China said with a small smile. I must leave, but I will return when I have news. Can I come with you? I'm afraid not, child. Stephanie nodded, hiding her disappointment. China left the building, accompanied by the man in the bow tie. Stephanie stayed in the apartment for a while, but despite the fact that it was almost 3 a.m, she couldn't relax. There was no TV, and the only book in the lounge she could read was the round address book on a small table. She crossed the hall and stepped into the library. She passed a man in a porcelain mask. 2 engrossed in his reading to notice her. She walked slowly, reading the titles on the spines of the books, trying to keep her mind occupied. If she could find something here, a book that held what she needed, then maybe she wouldn't be so helpless next time she went up against Serpine or anyone else. If she had the slightest bit of power, she might have been able to help Skulduggery. She followed one shelf to its end, then closed to another one, wandering deeper into the labyrinth. She couldn't work out the system. The books were arranged alphabetically, or by author, or even by topic. It seemed completely random. You look lost. Stephanie turned. The young woman who had addressed her slipped a book back into its place. She had tousled blonde hair, and she was pretty, but her eyes were hard, and she wore a sleeveless tunic that showed her strong arms. She spoke with an English accent. I'm looking for a book, Stephanie said, unsure. This would seem to be the place for that. Are there any books here on magic? They're all books on magic, the young woman replied. I mean learning magic. I just need something, anything. You have no one to teach you? Not yet. I don't know how to find anything in here. For a moment, Stephanie felt sure she was being studied. Finally, the young woman spoke again. My name is Tana Flo. Oh, hi. I'm afraid I can't tell you my name. No offense. None taken. The books are arranged in terms of experience. These are far too advanced for someone without instruction. 2 hours over, you might find what you need. Stephanie thanked her, and Tanneth walked away, disappearing in the maze of shelves. Stephanie found the section she was referring to and started scanning the titles. An introductory guide to monster hunting, the sorcery doctrines, a history so far, 3 names. Stephanie took 3 names to the shelf and flicked through it. She came to a part of taken names, a chunk of the book that went on for roughly 200 pages. She scanned the headings in bold print, she turned pages, skimmed paragraphs, looking for anything that stood out. My best advice for taking the name was this. The name you should take should fit you, define you, and also already be known to you. She put the book back, unimpressed, and scanned a few more titles before she found it. Elemental Magic. She took it down, opened it, and started reading. This was it. This was what she was looking for. She found an old chair in one corner and sat, bringing her legs up under her. Her mobile phone was perched on the arm of the chair. Stephanie held her hand closed, trying to think of the space between her hand and the phone as nothing but a series of interlocking objects. Moving one would move another, which would move another, which would move the phone. She focused, opened her hand slowly, and then snapped her pod the way she had seen Skulduggery do. Nothing happened. She made a fist, then tried again. The phone stayed where it was, just as it had done the previous 50 times she tried. How's it going? She looked up as Tana thought appeared, approached. You're starting off too big, Tana said. A phone's too heavy. A paperclip would be enough. I don't have a paperclip. Janice took the book from her, opened it, and balanced it on the arm of the chair. Use that, she said. Stephanie frowned. But that's even heavier than the book? No, than the phone. No, not the book, just the page. Oh, Stephanie said. She concentrated again, flexed her fingers, and splayed her hand. The page didn't turn, and it didn't even lift. It takes time and patience. I don't have time, and I've never had patience. Tan shrugged. There's always a possibility that you don't do magic. It's one thing to know it exists, it's quite another to be able to do it yourself. I suppose. That's some bruise you got there. Stephanie glanced at her arm to where her sleeve had risen. I had a bit of trouble, she said. So I see. Did you give it as good as you got? Not really, Stephanie admitted, but most of the bruising was done by a tree anyway, so I fought just about every type of opponent you could name, but I've never been attacked by a tree. Well done. Thank you. Tanith dug into her pocket, coming out with a piece of yellow porous rock. Run a bath. Let this dissolve. A few minutes in there. The bruises will be gone. Stephanie took the rock. Thank you, she said, and Tanith shrugged. I don't want to scare you, but this mightn't be the best time to start learning magic. Bad things are happening. Stephanie didn't say anything, but she didn't know anything about Tanith, and she didn't know how many sides there were in the coming conflict, so she wasn't about to start trusting perfect strangers. Thanks for the rock, she said. Not a problem, Tanith responded. We warriors have to look out for one another. Stephanie saw movement through the stacks, and the man in the bow tie was back, which meant China had returned. I had to go, she said at once, getting up off the chair. She found China in the apartment, her back to Stephanie as she approached. Have you told the elders? Stephanie asked. Word has been sent, China said without turning. You sent word? That's it? Do not presume to question me, child. Stephanie glared at her. I really wish you wouldn't call me child. China turned. And I really wish you would just pick a name so I wouldn't have to. Why aren't we going to the rescue? Going to the rescue, she said with a laugh. All horses, is that all right? With bugles sounding and flags flying. You think that's how it works? Skulduggery has come to my rescue. Well, they don't make them like him anymore, do they? Sending word isn't good enough. Meritorious has to be told. Tell him that we need Skulduggery to get the scepter, and tell him that without Skulduggery, Serpent would destroy everything. Tell him whatever you want, but we have to make the elders act. And then what? They call the cleavers to action. They call their allies together and tell them we go merrily along to war. Child, you know nothing about war. You think it's big and loud and it's good versus evil. It's not. War is a delicate thing. It requires precision. It requires time. We don't have time. Not so. Time is in short supply, but we still have it. So you're delaying? Why? I cannot have chaos erupting around me until I am prepared for it. I am a collector. I am an observer. I do not participate. My resources and my standing must be secure before I can allow the uncertainty of war to crash down upon us. And what about Skulduggery? Well, you're waiting for the right man to tell everyone Serpent is the bad guys. Skulduggery might be killed. The hesitation that flickered across China's face was barely noticeable. There are casualties in every conflict. Stephanie hated her. She turned and stormed back to the open door. Where are you going? China called after her. I'm going to do what you're too scared to do yourself. No, you're not. The door slammed and shut before Stephanie reached it. She spun around. China was walking towards her, and her exquisite face perfectly calm. You have no right to plunge us all into war. Who are you to decide when we fight? Why should you decide when we die? I just want to help my friend, Stephanie said, taking a step back. Skulduggery is not your friend. She narrowed her eyes. You don't know what you're talking about. And you don't know him, child. He has anger in him like you have never seen. He has hatred in him that you would never dream about. There is no place he would rather be than where he is right now. You're crazy. He told you how he died then? Yes, he was killed by one of Merlin's men. Nefarian Serpine killed him. He tortured him first, purely for fun, and ridiculed him, and then stripped him of his powers. And then he pointed at him. Do you know that's all it takes? With his red right hand of his, for him to point and then everything's over? Agonizing death. Skulduggery had said that. Stephanie hadn't realized that he had felt it himself. She shook her head defiantly. That doesn't change anything. When he came back, he fought Merlin's forces with a single-minded determination. Not to defeat evil, but to have his revenge on it. Merlin's Saki. Merlin himself fell, but just as Skulduggery was in position to claim his vengeance, there was a truce. And suddenly, his enemy was a protected citizen. Skulduggery has been waiting a long time to get his revenge, and he will risk anyone and anything in order to get it. Stephanie stood up straight here. Even if you're right, that doesn't change the fact that he's been the only one investigating my uncle's murder, or that he seems to be the only one around here who cares about what is really going on, or that he has saved my life. And put it at risk. Every good thing he's done for you has canceled out by every bad thing he's done to you. You don't owe him anything. I'm not going to abandon him. It's hardly your choice. What are you going to do? Stephanie challenged. I'm simply going to ask you to do what I say. Then the answer is no. My dear Stephanie. Stephanie froze. Sharon looked at her. I've known your name since I met you, child. Your uncle spoke of you often. Stephanie lunged for the door, but there was no use. Stephanie, China said softly. Stephanie's hands dropped to her sides and she turned. Tell no one of this. Stephanie felt inside her that she knew she would obey. No matter how much she raged against it, she would obey. She had no choice. She had nodded as tears stung her eyes, and China smiled, that beautiful smile of hers.